Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where your intuition is the doorway to elevated creativity, more joy, and prosperity. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been living an intuitive life for decades as a creative. That translates to transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 27 years through 2 businesses as a success coach and business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. Follow Your Joy is an entrepreneurial resource for creatives sharing their challenge to success stories through the lens of listening to their intuition. It's time to make joy and intuition your inner GPS for life and business, rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. Want to learn how to access trust or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. All right, so how was your Thanksgiving, creatives? Happy post-turkey day. So this episode is really kind of good timing, given I had just attended the beginning of November for the 3rd time the wedding industry's largest business and education conference in the country, called Wedding MBA, and that was in Vegas. I'm running around for 4 days, tons and tons of walking. I stayed over at the MGM Grand Suites, and thank God for that. That monorail was something else. Just took that monorail, got an unlimited pass, and just went everywhere and anywhere I needed to. And so that worked out really well. And let me tell you, Wedding MBA, it is a huge undertaking for the family who produces it year after year. And they do an outstanding effort. And I have to say, this one, since I've been attending, was probably the best one yet. Really, really robust. And excellent sessions and speakers and all that. The first year I attended, I was one of over 100 speakers, which is typically what they do. And in a 45-minute session, it was called Raising Your Wealth Consciousness for Higher Sales Conversion. Right. Essentially, I walked, the audience, planners and DJ production companies and floral designers and photographers and event producers and all that, how to recalibrate their beliefs and habits about money so that they are proactive rather than defeating in how their mindset works during the sales process, right? Because it has everything to do with their value and their worth. And I actually, with our guests that I'll be introducing in just a moment, that's some of what I was teaching our guests community. I think it was last month. My God, it's already gone by already. Geez. Anyway, so that was my thing. And I have to admit, it was a fantastic experience in that it set me up. This is 2019. It set me up for the entire year of 2020. Little did I know and anyone else that we were going to be hit with a pandemic and the world was going to shut down. But I am super grateful, and this is an ode and an acknowledgement to Wedding MBA, bringing on a handful of wonderful wedding clients that not only was I able to assist them through the pandemic and that awful fear that was going on and shutdown, but it really assisted me in continuing, online with my business. So to say the least, Wedding MBA, thank you for that. To say the least, creative entrepreneurs in the wedding industry, they're abundant. That's what they are. They're creative. And this is where my guest, Carissa Cruz, and I have in common, where we're behind the scenes coaching and guiding and navigating and inspiring and more these highly talented business owners. And Chris and I met a few months ago when she reached out to me on Facebook after someone mentioning to her that I teach money, transformation, money relationship transformation for wedding pros. And she was gracious to invite me to her Weddingpreneurs Content Club. She'll tell you all about that, to teach that very subject. And then here we are. So Carissa, let me give you a wonderful introduction and then bring you on. So Carissa Cruz is known as the wedding industry maven, as the queen of sales strategy, funnels, marketing, and automation. And she's the creator of Weddingpreneurs Content Club and Couples to Closing. So over the last decade, she created a marketing company after her corporate days were over, and we're going to hear about what happened there, and then started a wedding business with her photography expertise. She decided to segue into coaching then. Wedding pros how to build a profitable and sustainable business. Man, we can all use that. And she's very, very passionate about helping wedding pros do what they love without the stress, stressing over how to market their business. Because we all know, my goodness sakes, being on the front lines as well, it's always changing. It's like, what do we do today? Right? What's the hot order of the day in marketing? And Carissa works tirelessly behind the scenes for her clients and her groups and clubs and all of that to constantly help them be on the cutting edge. And of course, she loves cheesecake and her Irish setters. And again, she'll tell you a little bit more. She's a photographer, which is one of my, I love visual arts, and it's one of my favorites. I'm not a professional at all, but I love taking photos. So I'm right there with you. All right. So she really knows her stuff. She's as genuine as they come. So let's hear how all this transpired, and welcome to Follow Your Joy, Carissa.
Thanks, Marla. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see what's happening behind the scenes with you. So tell our creatives listening, kind of share, excuse me, share some of the highlights of your journey. In other words, what led you to marketing and sales, this corporate gig, and then your own biz, and really what happened to you that brought you, to kind of where you are today.
Yeah, so I've always had a passion for marketing and sales. It's always been just what I've always been meant to do. Even in high school, I did an internship that was for a big company that was in marketing department. And so I've just always had a love for marketing and sales. And so that's what I knew I wanted to do. So I went to college, graduated in 3 years instead of 4, and ended up getting, I have a double major in marketing and business administration. And so I dove into, the corporate world thinking, it's going to be great, all of those types of things, and you have to end up finding your way and making your way in this world. And so I've been in various corporate jobs, various industries, insurance. I was in real estate, are a couple of the big ones. And I always said, if I could sell and market insurance, I can sell anything, right? Because it's such a non-tangible item that you're like, how can you sell that? So anyway, so that was kind of what gave me that confidence in the very beginning, because that was like my first thing out of college. And so I was like, well, I could sell this, I could sell anything. So that was kind of fun. And I always reflect fondly on that because of that. And so then over my kind of career, I ended up started working with some small businesses because they were wanting my marketing help while I was in my corporate world. And so I thought, you know what, this is obviously something needed. I'm going to continue down that path. And so I created a marketing company first and ended up, working with small businesses with their marketing on all facets. And then I ended up realizing there was kind of a niche in the wedding industry that wasn't filled. What happened was, what I found was is that a lot of couples didn't want to hire multiple vendors for services. And so what we ended up doing was creating a company that offered several services so they could kind of combine and not have to have as many vendors for their big day. And so that was kind of the concept around it. And so that's kind of what I built and ran with. And one of the other things that I really have a passion for is helping others and supporting other people. And by building my company, what I was able to do was allow DJs, photographers, videographers, people that really love the wedding industry, love the services that they provide, like providing those services, but don't want to run the business side. So they can go and really do, what they love, but not have to worry on the business piece of it. And so that is also kind of when I built my company, what I based it upon was being able to support other creatives in their outlets without them having to, maybe build their business or that type of thing. So that was fun. So that's kind of just a quick synopsis kind of where I was and kind of where we went.
Yeah. So what were the services that you bundled in your new wedding business so that it could be a one-stop shop for these?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we actually started out, it's kind of morphed over the 10 years. We started out with photography, invitations, and we actually did favors even. We did like customized favors. So that was kind of where it started. We added in wedding planning for a few years. And then currently it's photography, videography, photo booth, and DJ services. So we stopped doing invitations in 2020 when COVID hit because our the vendor we were using for our paper and things like that, they sold and whatnot. So I just decided that we would eliminate that at that time. So now we just have those core four services that we offer in 3 states.
Very good. So you streamline over the 10 years, you went, okay, this is our sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. You got it. Yep.
Very
you got
good.
it.
Okay. Awesome. And where along the way did you then go, oh, you know what? I'm going to coach them too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So where did that land in this 10 years,
Yep. So that kind of came about in about 2018. I had wedding pros were asking me because we had expanded from 1 state to the 3 states. And people were wondering, like, what are you doing? How did you do that? Because I jumped into the industry, didn't know anything about the industry, had no connections, just started from scratch. And then, built it to the multiple services in multiple states with by teams. And so people were wondering, like, what did you do? How did you do it? And so I thought, I need to share, and help others because they don't, most wedding pros and creatives, they don't have that sales and marketing background. Doesn't come naturally to them. And so that was really my goal is to help other wedding pros and creatives be able to have that knowledge so they can get where they need to go more quickly without maybe as much trial and error and without, as many hurdles in the way.
Yeah, very good. I'm curious, and I'm not sure if I heard this or not, but so you had no experience in the wedding industry. What clicked for you? What showed up in your life one day and you went, oh, I'm going to go work in the wedding industry?
So I ended up in college. I actually worked for a florist. So I was kind of around the florals with the weddings and kind of some things that way. So I was in that. And then my sister was getting married. And so then I kind of saw, like, I kind of got a glimpse of kind of what was going on in the wedding industry and just had kind of heard that, oh, there's so many vendors you have to book. And I thought, you know what, there's something here. And so I just kind of ran with it, said, hey, I'm going to start a wedding business. And then 6 months later, we did an expo, our first expo. And I just said, we're going big or going home. And and so it's been a ton of fun. I've always had it. I never said I would be in the wedding industry. It wasn't ever like, hey, this is something I'm going to do. It just kind of, happened. It just kind of, I fell into it, is what I say. And a lot of times I just end up following kind of where, kind of certain directions you get, like something, that comes to you, you're like, hey, I should maybe, follow that a little further and see what happens. And so that was kind of how I feel about it. And I've always been a Hallmark girl. So I've always had that, that kind of Hallmark piece, love story kind of,
Yeah.
in me. But yeah, so it's definitely a fun industry to be in, and it really fits very well for my personality and just who I am as a person.
Yeah, it's that makes sense. I mean, it found you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
Correct. Yeah,
sounds like.
pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, as I was looking up currently, I'm like, oh, what is the worth, of the wedding industry? Because I too did not start my coaching business going, oh, I'm going to work with the wedding industry. Kind of it found me as well. But the wedding industry is a staggering 60 billion, and these numbers can vary depending on where you Google. Mm-hmm. But the wedding industry is a staggering $60 billion industry in the United States alone, right? And again, that number keeps fluctuating, and that doesn't include honeymoon investment. 60 billion.
Yep.
You think there's room for us to serve? Of course.
Correct.
Of course. Yeah. So I hear you is that I think I was in my, let's see, fifth or sixth year of my 15 years. And I'd always, served creatives, whether it was the entertainment PR, career I had, and then moving into coaching creatives. And it never even occurred to me. And I was asked one day by a friend who is a photographer, if I would speak to this particular industry. It was here in LA, was one of their monthly, gatherings. And they needed someone to talk about personal branding. So I did, and it was in front of this wedding association. And it was that event where I had a couple, in fact, it was a DJ. My very first client was a DJ production company from the wedding industry. And he ended up telling all of his friends. And within about 4 or 5 months, you know how it goes. I had, planners and photographers and floor designers and you name it that became clients. And it's just for 9 years, that's how it all happened. So I hear you. It's like, wait a minute, over in this left side over here, all of a sudden you're looking and here's this group of like really incredibly passionate, excited creatives. So I hear that's good. I hear you. Yeah, it's good. So, okay. So what brings you, I mean, that follow your joy is an important, obviously, theme here. What brings you the most joy? The most joy in doing your business?
It's really helping the wedding pros get off that roller coaster, get off that kind of struggle bus, because a lot of times we have our ebbs and flows in our business, and because we have peak seasons. And so what happens is they will end up, marketing, but then they get busy. And so then they stop marketing, and then they realize they're not booking anything. And then they have this like panic, and then they start marketing a little more, and then they get a few more, like, so it's kind of there's really no strategy behind it, and it's not their fault. That's just a lot of times they either started their business as a side hustle and then it kind of took off, or they said, hey, I'm legitimately, I'm going to start this business, and they have booked some weddings, and then they just get in this cycle. And so and so that's always one thing I want them to know is, if you didn't go to school for marketing and all of that, you're not going to necessarily know, hey, I need an actual strategy, or here's what I need to do. And so that is really what brings me the most joy is helping wedding pros and creatives just get off that roller coaster and create an actual marketing machine. I call it a lot of times, because that will do a lot of that heavy lifting for you and will help show up and be there even when you might be busy. And so that's really kind of what I really love doing, because once they get something in place, they can actually see how much different it is and how much different they feel, because they're not always feeling like in a panic or when am I going to book my next wedding?
Yeah. Very, very good. Yeah, it's so crucial. Especially for and it's you're typically with your ideal clients
Mhm,
are the newbies, correct?
mhm.
They're the
Yeah.
newbies, the first, what, 3 years of a business, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I work with people all over, kind of new wedding pros as well as seasoned ones. They
Okay.
kind of all have a lot of the seasoned ones, even recently, haven't really had much of a strategy. Things have just worked up until recently because the whole industry's kind of turned upside down since 2020 and kind of just the way that the industry's gone. And I always love to say that, as us as wedding pros, we get older, but our couples get younger. So we have to adapt. That's always something. Yeah. It's always something I say.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So we get older,
oh,
they get younger. We have to adapt to what it is that they want and how they want to be sold to.
yeah.
And that being sold to right now, what they want is they need a lot more nurturing. They need a lot more,
Okay.
um,
Hmm.
just a lot more touch points, having a lot more interaction with your business before they actually book you.
I was just going to ask you, what do you find is that right now? What is that trend mean that things change? So that's it, is they want much more high touch, right?
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily, it doesn't have to be high touch in the sense of like calls or things like that. They just have to see your business. And I saw a recent stat that it's 18 times.
Hmm.
So they actually, it used to be 7 back in the day, and now it's 18. And part of that is just because there's so much noise. I just call it noise.
Mm,
There's so much noise in the world. We have our phones on us all the time.
there's
We have,
noise.
we're constantly doing something, like there's just so much that just because they've seen something doesn't mean that they're going to make the next step, even though they might know they need to. They just get busy and doing something else. And so if you constantly have to just keep staying in touch with them, and that's where the different touch points come in. So it might be on social media, and then it might be email, and then it might be an ad, maybe if it's, you're doing paid ad. It's just all kind of comes together, and then they finally go, okay, I keep seeing this person, or this business. I need to now, check that out. And you probably, as I'm saying that, you've probably had some experiences with that yourself, even where you think, oh, that's really cool. And it could, even outside the wedding, just think of yourself in that and how you work through that, and you see something, you go, hey, that's really cool. And then you get sidetracked, then you see it again. You're like, hey, yeah, I should check that out. And then you get sidetracked, and then, hey, and so and then finally, it pops in at a certain time, and you're like, hey, okay, I'm going to really check that out now. Or you got an email, and you're like, okay, yes, I'm going to, it just takes so much so much nurturing to really kind of get them to convert. And that's really where a lot of times the wedding industry falls short, because we think that, oh, if they didn't book me within a day or two or a few days, that they booked somebody else. And that's really not the case
That's
anymore. They're taking longer to book.
that's a really, really important point you just said.
Mhm.
Yeah, really important. Um, hence why what you teach, especially the marketing system, is so crucial,
Mhm.
right? And you're right. I mean, I've been in, as I mentioned, I've been doing this. I was teaching email marketing. I was teaching this in the very beginning. Don't do that anymore, but it's changed so much. And I had not heard 18 times. In other
Right?
words, they literally need to see you at least 18 times before it converts, or at least they make some sort of a decision, yes or no.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a golden nugget. Let's hope it doesn't keep going up, because if it was, what did you say it was, 6 times before?
7. It used to be 7 for
7.
years. 7, yeah, and it's probably slowly gone up over the years or something. But yeah, I looked up because I was like, where is this at now? Because I know it's
Oh,
more than 7, and so
yeah.
18 is what I kind of landed on from a few different articles and things like that I
Yeah.
found. So
Where my mind goes, it's like, well, when does that stop? It's almost like inflation. It's like, well, is it going to be 25 soon? You
yeah,
got to see your content 25 times before somebody makes a decision.
yeah,
that to me is wackadoodle,
Yes,
right?
correct.
And it shows, you're right. It has everything to do with there's so many distractions. And I was just in my own mind this morning, I'm going, how can anybody, right? And we coach right business. It's like,
Mhm.
how can anybody, including myself at times, stay focused?
Mhm.
It's such right now, I think that's one of the biggest challenges
Yep.
in running a business, don't you think, is being able to stay focused
Mhm.
and
Correct.
literally every day keep yourself, stay the course, stop looking over here and stop thinking this over here is better. And, this content should be over here, this expert. It's like choose two lanes and stick with it. What's your take
Yep.
on that?
Oh, I completely agree. That's um we think we're such an instant gratification type world now
Yeah.
that when we try something, that if it doesn't work after one or two times or after a week or two, we think, oh, it didn't work, and we throw it to the wayside, and we try something, then we try something else, and then we try something. And so we don't get any traction with anything because we're bouncing all around doing all these different things. We don't have any strategy behind it. We don't have any data to gather because we didn't try it long enough. And so that seems to be a lot of times what happens is yeah, we just bounce around. And then when you stop to like analyze, you're like, well, I don't even know what works because I didn't try it long enough, or I didn't, I didn't check the data or anything like that. And so yeah, I completely agree that you see something online and then you go, oh, well, maybe I need to be doing that now. Or no, maybe I do. And we only have so many hours in the day, right?
Right.
And so really one of the things that I love to share too is that marketing that works is actually like boring. So it doesn't need to be like fancy, complicated. Um, some of the best strategies that I have and that I teach are simple, and they're boring. And a lot of times people don't want to do the boring stuff, right? We want it to be fun. We want it to feel exciting. But those aren't really the things that you need to do in your business that are going to make those big impacts.
Oh,
It's just kind of, and we always think we have to be hustling in order to be making that money too, right? And so we kind of sometimes spin our wheels to just spin our wheels to make us feel like we're doing something. But really what we're working on isn't really making a impact to our bottom line. It's just we're just spinning our wheels and we think we're feeling better. It's making us think we're doing the right things. But
yeah. What would you define as boring
so
in
you can
marketing that works?
yeah. So one of the things, is email marketing. I know
Yeah.
like people are kind of anti, especially the wedding, they're like, oh, email, I'm don't. But really there's a lot that you can do with email without coming off salesy, spammy, sleazy, because I'm big on that. And making sure that it has that boutique feel yet. There's a lot of things you can do with those, but it's boring. And so people think, well, I don't want to do emails much because, it's more, it's just, there's not much excitement around it. But email makes such an impact on your bottom line
Yeah,
because a lot of times we're nurturing and doing those additional touch points
that's right.
with email. But a lot of times people will ignore email because they think, well, I'm going to go post on social media because that feels more fun to them.
Right.
But really, if say you have 1,000 people in your audience, on Instagram. So say maybe you have 1,000 followers. Well,
Mm,
really only a small segment of those people are going to see your content anyways.
yeah.
And I think want to say it's like maybe 5%, something like that.
Mhm.
Where if you have an email, if you have maybe 20 leads sitting there, 30 leads sitting there that haven't booked you yet, and you send them an email,
Yeah.
the open rate on those are probably going to be, you're probably going to get in front of more people through that email than you did through that social media post.
Correct.
So, but it doesn't, but email is boring. It doesn't give you that juice like people get from social media. And so that's why I always just say, some of those simple things are, and the other thing I want to say real quick too is that with email marketing is you can set up your funnel because I teach about 3 funnels for the wedding industry, and you can set up your funnel where it does the heavy lifting for you. So you don't even have to manually go and send out these emails sometimes, depending on how we set it up.
Right.
that then it so it's boring. It just does that. So a lot of times people just think we have to be doing all the things and like, but really we don't. We can
No.
we
Yeah.
can go back to and some of it is just going back to the basics from my sales and marketing days back, eons ago when I was in college, back to the basics
Yeah.
is really where sales and marketing stems from. And then how do we fit in the strategies in today's world for our industry into that plan?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, you're with me, you're definitely singing in the choir. I mean, I've been emailing since 2008 and I've never stopped ever. 15 years, I follow the same that you do. It's the sequence. I mean, email sequence. And I know, especially my listeners, I know you all know that. And if you know it and not doing it, do it. Get into an email program and start setting up, your automation for sure. The other piece too, I know you've heard about the power of email, which I mean, I can't believe I'm actually talking about this. It's like email was the standard, in online marketing. It's never, to me, it's never gone away. And I don't know how, unless something else replaces it, which I doubt, but it's the standard. But I can't believe I'm actually talking as if it's not the standard anymore. But the point is, it's our emails. We own them. You don't own them on social. You don't own if you will, your communities. What's your take on that?
Correct. Exactly. That's, one of the things with the wedding industry is people thought we didn't need an email list because we were not booking them years later. Right. So that's kind of been the thought process in the wedding industry for years. And I understood that too, because in my first few years in the wedding industry, having like a funnel wasn't really needed because people were converting within like a week period of time of reaching out. They would reach out, they'd, think, hey, I'm looking for a photographer. They'd meet with how many ever people, they'd pick their person, who they were going to book. And then within I would say within a week, they had booked. So it wasn't really needed because of that time frame and how the sales cycle and sales process worked then. Now, fast forward, 10 years later, and things have evolved so much more quickly in the online space. I mean, with AI, we got everything now, right? We have all that the whole sales cycle has changed. And that's where a lot of people don't understand is because they go, well, it used to work, it's not working now. And it's because that sales cycle has changed so much. And I've had couples that have booked. I had one that booked 6 months after, it was like 6 months after reaching out. And I had another one that was a year. So like, and those are kind of some further out ones, but they're on my email list and they were constantly getting an email every 2 weeks from me. So I was staying, in their inbox where nobody else probably was.
Smart.
But, and those emails are value story based. They're not, you're like salesy, hey, ready to book me yet? Because then you're just going to be like, no, like go away. Right. But if you're giving them some type of value, that will help you stay top of mind, knowing that you're trying to help them and they won't want to unsubscribe.
That's right. Yeah, it's education based. I mean, your newsletter, whatever you want to call it, whether it's an e-blast, broadcast, newsletter. I mean, it's always based on, and I call it personality driven, and it's positioning you as the go-to expert. Right. So I remember way back, when Gary Vaynerchuk first came out with his, it was that green book. I forgot the name of the title, but it was all about how many times you're sending good value, good education, and then you ask for the sale, right? And it's usually 3 or 4, and then the fourth one is the asking for the sale. So yeah, you're correct, is that the more that you stay top of the mind through email when everyone else is over on Instagram or TikTok, And you are positioning yourself as the educator, with a blog or a podcast or whatever it is. That's a to me that's golden. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
golden. Very,
exactly.
very good. Okay. Boy, we could have a long talk further, but let's, this is really, really good stuff. Yeah, thank you. So all right, intuition, as you know, it's a powerful art. It's a basis of, my brand, how I live, how I coach, and how I aspire for creatives to, to really, make decisions, because that is our, instead of reaching out outside of ourselves, we have the answers if we get quiet enough to listen. And then what my belief is, you first listen and ask, I should say, ask your intuition. And I'm talking business. Should I send this email out? Should I reach out to this person? Should I write this? Whatever. Right? Is that you ask your intuition first, and then you follow it up and support it with logic, right? The action, right? So it's a beautiful kind of a blend and so forth. So that's where that means. It doesn't mean forgo the brain. It doesn't mean forgo the logic and practicality and the systems and strategies we've been talking about. My point in all this is share a story in your life where you listened to your intuition and you created a fulfilling result.
So I would say that it was probably when I started my wedding business, actually.
Yeah.
Because I kind of just had this in me, like, hey, this is something you should do. I didn't really think too much about it. I thought it kind of just came to me and I was like, I should do this. And so I just kind of honed into that, I guess, and
Yeah.
went down that path. I didn't really try to overanalyze it. It's probably one of the few things that I haven't really overanalyzed in my life as I look back on that, and as you asked me this, I've never really thought of it that way. But yeah, it was just something that I must have just known that I was meant to do, because I didn't really, yeah, I didn't really overanalyze that. And so that's kind of fun to like think about right now. So I think sometimes you are given those types of moments in life that you just have to kind of run with and try. And not everything's going to work, and that's okay. I've had other things I've tried that haven't worked, right? But if you can kind of follow that gut or that intuition, and when those opportunities arise,
Yeah.
you'll have that more fulfilled life, because it's something that is just
Meant for you.
yeah, correct, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it comes a little easier, I think, too, because it's meant for you. It fits you really well. It like
Mhm.
just who you are as a person, your personality, and all that stuff. So yeah, so that would be that would be what I'd
I
say.
think, yeah, that's good. It was, tell me, it was like because this is what intuition does. Intuition is never loud. Ego mind is loud and obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
Intuition is like a nudge. It's
Yeah.
a, you know what, go over here, try this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? And it may come back a couple times before you listen.
Mm-hmm.
But
Correct.
it's right. Is that what you experienced with it?
Yep. Yeah, I think it kind of showed up, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then you kind of saw something else pop up too, and they're like, oh, okay. And then yeah, and so you kind of have where it it pops up several different times, and then you're like, hey, I should explore this maybe, or so always just look for those types of pieces that fall in your life, and they might show up in different ways, right? Like it might
Yeah.
not be the same thing, and you have to and again, we're so busy in our lives that a lot of times we might not see it the
Mhm.
first one or two times, and so that's
Yeah.
why it might need to show itself several times before you like
Mhm.
stop and pick up on it and go, why am I seeing this? Or why does the same type of topic or whatever it is
Keep showing
keep
up.
showing up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
very good. And that's the what I aspire is for anybody is to really have an intention of how you operate every day that
hmm
says, yeah, not it's not meant every once in a while listen to my intuition if it keeps nudging me.
hmm
No, have this as part of your life tools every day as an intention that starts to, like, for example, I'm upgrading, and I've been doing intuition for many years, but I'm upgrading my intuition tools and really, really understanding it through one of my longtime mentors, Sonia Choquette. And Sonia Choquette, fantastic. Those of you that are listening, I know many of you know her. I'm listening to her. I'm taking her Trust Your Vibes online course right now because I want to deepen. I want to really like master this because I know I've not been listening at times yet. I know it's there. So it's amazing because the results that come out of it, in one little quick tip, and then we'll move on, is that there's a difference between, and this is something I just learned, didn't know this after the many years I've been living this way and teaching it, is that we have a heart intuition and we have a gut intuition. And the gut is usually what she calls the red light. It's the protective intuition that says, yeah, proceed with caution, right? That's intuition is never, the vibes are not bad. They're just, yeah, be careful, maybe not, don't do that, right? Whereas the heart intuition, which she really emphasizes, take the lead, but always listen to your gut. The
hmm
heart is everything that you love. And she says, she says, when you emphasize either through affirmations every day in meditation, writing down things that you love, what that is a magnet, right? It's a magnet for having that in your life. And so the more that you emphasize that and speak it, think it, right? What you love from the heart, that's when your intuition also then shows up a lot more. So, for example, what do you love? Give me one thing you love to do, Carissa.
Uh, I love
It doesn't have to
going
be
to,
work related, by the way.
what'd you say?
It doesn't have to be work related. It could be
No,
anything.
yep. Love going to the lake area and just kind of hanging out and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Just kind
Oh,
of soaking up the surroundings and yeah,
beautiful.
it's yep, it's fun and just peaceful. I think
Yeah,
that's part of
it's your quiet time.
it.
In that, and I'm sure you're going to give me a good answer, in that is when your intuition is going to show up way more because you're doing what you love.
Mm-hmm.
So how many times have you gone, and I know this is common too, when we quiet ourselves down enough and go out in nature, that's when we get to hear a lot of things we're not listening to. Has that happened for you where you were able to touch your intuition more doing that?
I think so. Yeah, because you're kind of you get out of your day to day. It's something too, like a lot of times those things that we love doing, we don't do often, right? Because we're so caught in our day to days. And so when you
Right.
can step out and do
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
it's uh puts you in a different mindset. It puts you in a different element. And
Yeah.
even if you can change your surroundings, I think that just gives you different clarity, different view
100%.
on things.
Exactly. Yeah. So all that to say, absolutely, is emphasize each day what you love, speak it into existence. And not only will your intuition show up more, like I love being creative, or I love, you know, transforming lives. I love, whatever it happens to be.
Yep.
Anyway, all good. So let's move into, before we end here, is based on all this years of experience, is there, let's look at one key advice, although you've given us some really good golden nuggets today. What key advice would you like our creatives to hear?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I always like to share is kind of just figure out where you are in your life and in your business and figure out what has you stuck. And sometimes it, when you look at it from both perspectives, I think sometimes we get so focused just on business or so focused just on life that they intersect as an entrepreneur, right? They intersect. And so really looking at both of them, your personal life as well as your business, because each one affects each of them. And so figure out where you're maybe stuck at or where your hurdle is, and then push yourself kind of outside your comfort zone to work on that one aspect. A lot of times we think that we have to work on it all at the one time. It doesn't work that way. We really have to pull back that onion and figure out where's our sticking point, where's our hurdle. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's money mindset, as I know you coach on, a lot of times it's the money mindset piece for a lot of entrepreneurs, because they didn't know they were going to be an entrepreneur. They didn't know that was, that wasn't what they were planning to do. And so, or it might be something with something else in your personal life or something with your business. Like it could be a multitude of things, and there might be several things, but pick that first one that you can really work on, and find that support you need for that. Because a lot of times you're not going to be able to probably fix it on your own. Otherwise, you probably would have. And it might not be, if you don't have the ability to, hire maybe a coach or something. There's books and there's podcasts like you have. There's a whole realm of opportunities. So don't feel like, oh, well, I can't seek help for that because I don't have, the funds for it or the money for it. There's other opportunities that will help you fix that, so you can get to maybe that point where you can then seek that support or coaching that you need on that one-on-one basis. But so that's really what I would say. Every human being has weaknesses. We all have challenges in life. We all go through the same things. It might be in different stages and different, realms in our life, but we all go through it. And so you're not alone. And I think being an entrepreneur, unless you grew up in an entrepreneur family, which I did not, a lot of times you feel like you are on your own and you're the only one going through it. And you're the only one that's, because there are so many struggles and strifes, as an entrepreneur, right? And so, so I think that would be what I would just leave with, is that you're not alone, and to kind of take the time to figure out, where you're stuck at and work on that first piece. And then you can kind of keep building from there.
Terrific. Okay. Wise advice, especially coming out of the comfort zone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And have an accountability partner or coach or whomever that helps you stay in that, out of that comfort zone, so that you don't self-negotiate and go, yeah, I think I'm not going to do this.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, very, very good. Okay. So where can people get in touch with you, and what would you like to offer Follow Your Joy audience?
Yeah, so you can reach me at carissacruzyweddings.com. That's also my handle on social media, Carissa Cruzy Weddings. And if you are interested, I have one of the biggest things I know a lot of people deal with is those ghosted leads, those leads that you thought were goners, is what I say. But I have a free resource, Rekindle a Silent Lead. It's 3 sales closing email sequence template.
Nice.
And so there's 3 emails in there that help you to send. They're templated, but they're Mad Lib style, so you can weave in your own pieces. And those 3 emails help to kind of revive them if they haven't maybe booked that service yet. And so that might be something that might be helpful, because I'm always trying to help people, maybe grab an extra wedding that they didn't realize they had, put a little extra money in their pocket, so they can then, be able to invest back into themselves and their business to keep growing with what they're looking to do.
Wonderful. And these are all, everyone, these will be in the show notes, of course. the link. So terrific. Thank you for that. I love that's very, very helpful. There's nothing better than having, right, email actual templates. Even though everyone you have AI.
That's a whole other topic for another
That's a
day.
it's a whole other topic we're not going to even touch right now. You got the real deal from Carissa. So please use this, opt in for that. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Carissa, for
You are
your
so
time.
welcome.
Yes. And listeners, thank you for being with us. Yet another behind the scenes in the mindset of a creative entrepreneur. Here she is, who's passionate about helping others, right? So thanks for staying with me at Follow Your Joy. And of course, I'm always aspiring for you to listen to your intuition, your intuitive hunches, your gut responses to life and your business, and they will always serve you well. And until next episode, be well and be blessed. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads. Instagram, it's my favorite place to hang out. Let's connect there. If you received inspiration from the episode, I'd sure appreciate a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next episode, take care.